Everyone, welcome to the channel today where we've got another Football Manager 2017 experiment, and today we're starting a new little series on the channel where first of all we're going to take a look at Manchester United in the 5 seasons of series. Now we're going to sim 5 years into the future in year increments, and we're going to go through and look what kind of transfers they've brought in, how they've progressed in the various different competitions, if Jose Mourinho is still the manager throughout the whole of the holiday, and just basically just have a look through the stats, have a look at how their strikers have performed. Is there a particular player that is really banging the goals in for Manchester United? Are they performing in the league? Are they not performing in the league? There's a lot of questions to be answered, and we can see here first of all that we have applied the Sort It Outside database update. We've got Romelu Lukaku in the side. We've also got a few other players in there. Victor Lindelof is one of them. We're recording this on the 31st of the 7th, and there's going to be a couple of other players that are going to be coming into Manchester United in the next few days, given what the press seem to be saying at the moment, but we haven't introduced them at the moment. Fellaini looks like he could be on his way out of the club, but we've kept him in just for this experiment. But we're going to kick on now, guys. We're going to sim a year into the future, and we're going to come back and we're going to see, first of all, who Manchester United have brought in terms of transfers. Well then, 12 months on, and the first piece of transfer business to bring to you is Manchester United signed Virgil van Dijk from Southampton for £25 million here. He's played 13 games for his new club, scoring 1 goal, but has been a pretty useful centre-back for them since making the switch. As you can see here, he moved for £25 million from Southampton. He's got an assist, a man of the match, and a goal from his 13 games, 7.31 rating. And he's going to develop into a really important defensive player for Manchester United, particularly in that centre-back role. It's a very good first signing for Jose Mourinho. He's also brought in Spanish defensive midfielder / midfield option Sergei Dada, who has come in from Olympique Lyonnais for £17.5 million. Now, he hasn't played many games for Manchester United. He's played 3 games in total. He's made a fair amount of sub-appearances, particularly in the Premier League. Now, he has moved in for £17.5 million. He played 50 games for Lyon, scoring 5 goals, but has yet to make an impact on this Manchester United team. And he's pretty much, I think, going to be a little bit of a backup option, given what the types of talents they've got in midfield. Let's have a quick look at his stats here. So 17.5 million, as we discussed. And let's quickly pop into the reports, have a look at his stats, see what he's done in terms of the games that he's played. He's been involved in 10 games, of which they've won 8. He's had 2 shots on target from 2 attempts. It's 100% on target rate. 0.49 shots on target, 0.25 dribbles made, 176 passes made, 4 of which were key. Succeeded with 120 of them, and has done reasonably well. An average of around 29.5 passes per game completed per 90 minutes, that is. An average distance covered of 7.2 kilometres per 90 minutes. His tackling has been on point with 31 tackles, made 21 won with only 10 lost, a 68% tackle win ratio, 5.16 tackles made and won per game, and 1.72 fouls conceded per game. Now, they've also brought in Benoit Tremolinas. He's a wing-back, left wing-back. They've brought in here. He's aged 32, so he's in his veteran stages of his career now. They brought him in from Sevilla on a free transfer. He's valued at 120 grand, but he's going to fill in as backup for Luke Shaw and a few other guys which they've got in the team. And he's going to do a fairly decent backup job. He's already played 3 games in the Champions League for Manchester United, earning a 7.57 rating. He's played 2 games in the Premier League with 9 sub-appearances and a few cup games as well. So all in all, he's been a pretty decent signing for Jose Mourinho's team. We can see here he's played 11 games in total since making the switch from Sevilla. Free transfer, you can't really moan at that. Let's have a quick look at the players that have left Manchester United, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go in and look at the league table for the first season. So the first person out of the door then, and it's only a year on, and Victor Lindelof has left Manchester United after not really holding down a place. So obviously they've brought in Virgil van Dijk, who's probably accounted for that as well, but he never really made the grade at Manchester United, did Victor Lindelof, and he has moved out to Arsenal for £24.5 million, with the potential for that to rise to £31 million. We'll have a look at that in a moment. He's played 2 games for Arsenal so far. He's well, 2 league games that will be. No goals scored. Let's have a quick look at his career stats. So he played 10 games for United for a 6.61. He's played 2 for Arsenal for a 7.45. Information says he moved for 25 million, but they round that up anyway. And basically, I think he might do a decent job for Arsenal. So let's have a quick look here. So it's not really going to tell you everything, because obviously we're accounting for the games that he played for Manchester United also, which is going to be brought up in this really. His passes are really good though. 806 passes, succeeded with 637, almost an 80% pass succession ratio. 121 tackles won from 152, 20 of which were in key areas for an 80% tackle win, which is kind of what you'd expect for one of your centre halves. Not too brilliant with his shots, but again, he is a defender. 21 shots, he only managed to get 5 on target for 24%. But what I will say is he has been pretty good bit of business up for Arsenal, I'd suggest. Andreas Pereira was the other person to leave for £850,000, potentially rising to 1.1 million. Now, he does develop into a good player on this game, but he never seems to get the shout for Manchester United and often ends up going elsewhere. So Aston Villa managed to swoop in early doors in that end of that first season, pick him up, and he's played 15 games for them in the league, scoring 2 goals. He's been a good signing for them, a good acquisition for Aston Villa, and he will hopefully shoot them back into the Premier League. Let's have a quick look at the history, and we can see here Aston Villa are in the Championship. He's got a 6.59 average rating so far, which isn't ideal. Let's have a quick look at his stats in that Championship, and we can see here he's been involved in 6 winning matches from 15 that he's played. He's got 56% on target ratio with his shots, from 16 shots in total. 58% success rate with his passes, succeeding with 263 from 454, and his tackles, he's made 27, winning 16 for 59%. He's averaging around 7 kilometres per 90 minutes of running, and I think he'll be a good sign. I think he probably just needs a season or 2 of regular football just to get into that kind of mould. Now, the rest of the transfers for this window, or for this year, shall we say, were just loan deals. Tathy Chong went out on loan to Portsmouth. James Wilson went out on loan to Cardiff. Guillermo Varela went on loan to Bournemouth. Ashley Young on loan to Crystal Palace. Axel Tuanzebe on loan to Fulham. Rashawn Williams on loan to AFC Wimbledon. Joe Riley to Bradford. And Cameron Borthwick-Jackson on loan to Sunderland. Now, let's have a look at the Premier League. We can see here they are sat in 3rd. Now, Arsenal have won the Premier League title by 4 points over Tottenham. Manchester United finishing in 3rd position. So then, I'm not too sure what's happened with the Europa League. They've won every game in the Europa League group stages, but it doesn't seem to have progressed into the knockout stages, so I'll have to have a look at that in the future. In terms of the Premier League, they finished in 3rd. In the FA Cup, they were beaten in the semi-final against Arsenal, getting beat 2-0 by Arsenal in that round. And also the League Cup, I believe they were knocked out in the 4th round by Tottenham in extra time. James Wilson getting on the score sheet, but it wasn't good enough on the day. Let's have a quick look at the squad stats, and we can see Paul Pogba, the standout man, with 17 goals from 44 games, 22 assists, 9 man of the matches from Paul Pogba. Had a fantastic season. Romelu Lukaku with 21 goals in 27, again a very good return, and Rashford with 10 in 13 with 19 sub-appearances. A very good return that from the lads. Mkhitaryan and Marshall both getting on the score sheet with 14 goals apiece. Let's skip another year into the future and see what happens. Who do they bring in next? Where do they finish in the league? Is Mourinho still going to be the manager? Questions about to be answered. Let's go and find out. Let's start off with the transfers then for the 2nd season, and Marco Verratti is the first purchase for Manchester United, coming in from PSG for a massive £84 million purchase. Now, he's going to be a huge player for Manchester United in this save. He played 142 games for PSG, scoring 9 goals, and has already played 37 games for Manchester United, scoring 2 goals. He's going to be really, really good. Let's have a quick look at his history, and we can see here he came in for £84 million. Let's have a look at the stats and find out how he's got on. We'll get rid of these various different things and we'll focus more on the league stuff. So, of 61 games he was involved in, they won 36. He's got 4 man of the match appearances. His average rating is 7.43. A really, really solid return. An 8.5 kilometre per 90 minutes distance covered are really good as well. He's succeeded getting 15 shots from 50 on target. It's a 30% on target, scoring 3 goals. His pass is a 67% succession rate. A large amount of passes, 51 of which were key, and also his tackles were brilliant. 64% were successful, 6 key tackles. His average win tackles per game were 3.04, 40.59 passes completed per game, and 1.91 dribbles made per game. He's a really, really good signing here for Manchester United. Next through the door was Mario from Villarreal, who they bought in for £25 million here. Now, he's going to do a really good job at right back. He's played 24 games for Manchester United since arriving. He's got an average rating of 7.13, 7.15 in the Premier League. He's been pretty much to the fore in that first team since coming in from Villarreal. And he's obviously going to improve. He's only 28 years of age. There's a couple more solid years of football. 25.5 million. And that's another defensive option that Manchester United have bought in. Manchester United have also made further moves in the transfer market, the next of which was attacking midfielder by the name of Yannick Carrasco, bought in from Atletico de Madrid. He's played 24 games since coming into Manchester United, scoring 5 goals, and has been a very, very good outlet for them since he's arrived. He looks like he could very much improve to be a very, very world-class. Well, he's already listed as a world-class winger, but I think there's a little bit of improvement to do there, but he's already making the right move since moving across to Manchester United. Now, they snapped him up for £24 million there from Atletico de Madrid. He's not quite peaked yet since moving to Manchester United, only conducting around a 6.83 ratio. But we can see here we have got a very, very nice player on our hands. A £36 million value slapped on a profit of £12 million were anyone to meet that valuation, given they bought him for £24 million. And I think in the future he's going to be a very, very good signing for them. Let's have a look at their next signing. They've opted to bring in a winger, left back, Ben Davies from Tottenham. He'd played 59 games for Spurs since moving from Swansea, and he's been brought in by Manchester United to fill in at that left back role. Now, he has done a good job since coming in. He's played 18 games for them, of which he's scored no goals, but again, you don't expect him to. He's performed well in a variety of different competitions, some of which were international, some of which were in cups and stuff, but generally speaking, he's averaging around a 7.01 rating. He moved for £22 million, but that could rise to £35.5 million with add-ons, with fees. So let's have a look at the next signing that they've bought in. Another good signing, this one. Again, another defensive player again, and we're going to have a quick look at who that is. So they've bought in Stefan de Vrij from Lazio, who played 64 games for the Italian club before making the switch to Manchester, and he's played 31 games since arriving. He's valued now at £31 million. Now, this is a good bit of transfer business because they only paid, I believe, £17.25 million. We'll just confirm that. So, yes, £17.25 million. He's averaging around 7.44, which is a very, very solid return for Stefan de Vrij. Valued now at 31 mil. He's 27 years of age, and he's going to be a very important player for them moving forward. Let's have a quick look and see what the stats say. And we're just going to keep it to the domestic kind of games and obviously the Champions League, and he's performing well. He's winning 88% of his tackles. That's probably the highest I've seen on any experiment, 31 of which were key. He's succeeding with 85% of his passes also. Average rating of 7.35, 7.1 kilometres covered per 90 minutes, 4.61 tackles won per 90 minutes, almost 20 passes completed per 90 minutes as well. And I think that in the future he's going to be a very important defensive player for Manchester United. So now we're going to have a look at who has left the club, what kind of players have been released from their contracts, who has gone in the opposite direction. Let's find out. Well, the first player to leave Manchester United was Anthony Martial, who has gone to Bayern Munich for a massive £66 million. Now that could well rise to around 75-80 million with add-ons, and he has really taken it in his stride. He's moved to the Bundesliga. He's scored 12 goals in 18 games so far with 2 assists for a 7.15 average rating, and has really thrived since making the switch to the German league. He had scored 20 goals in 62 games whilst at Manchester United, but they decided to sell to make room for others. And whilst I think he's a brilliant player, the fact they paid a lot for him when they bought him in, I mean, it says 36 million there, but it was more like 50. I think they've done quite well really to sell him on, given they've got the likes of Carrasco, who could develop into just as good, if not a touch better. So Martial has gone out to Bayern Munich, which is going to be a bit of a blow to certain Manchester United fans. Also heading out in the other direction was Matteo Darmian, who signed for AC Milan for £9 million, potentially rising to 12.5 with add-ons. He has left the club. He used to play in that right back position, could also fill in at left back, but they've decided he didn't really make the grade at Old Trafford and they've got rid of him. He's gone to AC Milan, back to the Italian league where he started his career at AC Milan. He's played 4 games so far, not really doing anything in particular. And I think that's a good deal for both clubs. I think AC Milan will benefit from his experience, getting him back in the side. Also, he's been around various clubs. Manchester United experience will stand him in good stead, and I also think that Manchester United have the likes of Mario and a couple of the other guys as well, which are going to be as good if not better than him. So that is a good deal for both clubs concerned. We've also seen another player that has moved in the direction. It's gone down to the seaside, or down that way anyway, and that is Guillermo Varela, who has been sold to Bournemouth for £3 million. He has been loaned out though to Celta Vigo after making 19 appearances, and now it looks like he's actually going to make a permanent move to Celta Vigo, which is a bit of a bizarre bit of business that from Bournemouth. But then again, they did only pay £3 million for his services. He's now valued at 5.75, and I'm not sure if we can find out how much he looks to be moving for. So for 3.1 million, he's going to make the move to Celta Vigo. So they've made 100 grand. Plus, I suppose, whatever they've paid in terms of his loan fees, etc. So now we're back on the transfer screen then. Cameron Borthwick-Jackson has made the move from Manchester United to Ipswich Town. 2 million, potential rise in there to 2.4. He's now valued at 3.7. He's getting regular game time for Ipswich. 38 appearances so far since making the move. They're in the Premier League as well, which is good. They got promoted. So that's good for Ipswich fans. If you're watching this and you're an Ipswich fan, enjoy the return to the Premier League. So yeah, Cameron Borthwick-Jackson looks in good stead there to improve and get better, given this regular game time. He's probably not performing great though. 6.62 average rating in the Premier League isn't really going to cut it. So let's have a look at who else. So let's have a look at the players which have been released, and those have been Regan Poole has been released. He's now plays for Brentford. Scott McTominay has been released. He is a free agent and nobody has yet come to snap him up. We've also got Devontae Redmond, who is a free agent yet to be snapped up. Another man from the Manchester United youth. Joe Riley has been picked up by Burton Albion and has played 36 games for them since making the move. He had a spell on loan at Bradford, I believe, before he was released. And he's now at Burton. Let's have a look at a couple of others. Tosin Kahinde hasn't been given a club since leaving. He's been on a free transfer for a while. Antonio Valencia has gone to Newcastle after being released from his contract after 9 years of service at Manchester United. He's now a Newcastle player. He's played 38 games for a 6.71 average rating and has done really well since joining up at Newcastle. Benoit Tremolinas, who was bought in for that season, has been released, but now plays for Red Bull Salzburg. Hasn't really set the ground on fire, although I've got to say, that is complete lies. He's played 27 games, 7 assists, 10 man of the matches for a 7.74 average rating. For a free transfer, Red Bull Salzburg have done really well there with Benoit Tremolinas. Really good signing. Haven't really seen much of him in the game, to be honest. Matthew Willock remains a free agent after getting released from Manchester United. Hasn't really given anyone any interest in him, so that's another player that looks like he's gonna probably drift out of the game. Marouane Fellaini awarded a free transfer. Has gone to San Jose Earthquakes over in America. He's going to obviously play it the last few seasons. He's 31 now, so he's probably going to play the last 2 or 3 years out there in America. Good wage, 68k a week. Could be worse, could be a lot worse. And we also got Ashley Young, who has been awarded a free transfer. He now plays for Brentford. I think they're in the Premier League as well. No, they're in the Championship. They finished 4th. So he's played 37 games. He's been a regular for them in the Championship with a 6.83 average rating. He's a versatile player, can play in a numerous amount of positions. Has lost a bit of his pace that we were accustomed to seeing from him. But obviously he's a very important squad player for them after, a lot of years service at the top level. Loan deals, we have saw James Wilson on loan at Blackburn, Marcus Rojo going out on loan to Fiorentina, Chris Smalling on loan to Inter, Tuanzebe on loan to Middlesbrough, Rashawn Williams on loan to Doncaster, Taffy at Ipswich and Angel Gomez on loan at Doncaster. And I think that completes all the transfer moves for the second season. Let's have a quick look at the squad then and see who has performed best. Now we're going to go based on appearances. So Marco Verratti, chief on appearances, 56 appearances, 5 sub appearances, 3 goals, 15 assists, 4 man of the matches for 7.43. Paul Pogba again has been fantastic, 54 games played, 19 goals, 19 assists, 8 man of the matches, 7.55 average rating. A very important player for Man U. Juan Mata played really good as well. 48 games, 10 goals, 13 assists, 8 man of the matches. Lukaku, 19 goals in 46 games. And I think that's a bit disappointing from Romelu Lukaku. You'd expect him to be bagging around 30 goals a season. He hasn't managed to do so. Yannick Carrasco has got 10 in 34. Marcus Rashford, 24 in 19 with 26 sub-appearances. That is a very, very good return there from Marcus Rashford. Mario has been a regular in that first team. Sergio Dada has played quite regular as well. 25 games played, 6.88. Probably hasn't quite cut the mustard at Manchester United. Virgil van Dijk only played 4 games for Man U this season and he hasn't managed to get into that first team. Daley Blind and Stefan de Vrij keeping him out of that, along with Eric Bailly and a couple of others, Phil Jones as well, getting a lot more games. But Virgil van Dijk hasn't really featured at all this season, and it's probably likely that he's going to move out in the next transfer window. Let's have a quick look at the league table then, and Man City were the winners of the Premier League, much to my dismay. Tottenham finishing 2nd, Chelsea in 3rd, Liverpool 4th, Arsenal 5th, Man United down in 6th. They didn't really perform in the league this season. We'll have a quick look at the schedule and we'll see what has been going on here. So we're going to have a look, and we've got the Europa League. We're just going to auto size these columns so we can see a bit more. Manchester United were knocked out in the Europa League semi-final against Arsenal. They got right the way through to the League Cup semi-final where they were beaten by Arsenal as well. They were beaten by Sheffield United in the FA Cup 5th round. In the Champions League knockout rounds, they were knocked out by Barcelona. They won the first leg at home but were beaten 3-0 away and were knocked out of the Champions League, unfortunately. And that's pretty much it as terms as this season is concerned. Jose Mourinho is still the manager of Manchester United. Will he be after this season? Well, that remains open to debate. So what we're going to do now is we're going to skip another year into the future, the 3rd year in total, and see what's happened. So then into the 3rd season we go, and the first bit of transfer business that we can confirm is that Renato Sanchez has made a massive £82 million move to Manchester United. That is a big statement, along with Marco Verratti, who moved in the previous season. Obviously Martial going in the opposite, well, he's going out to Bayern, not really the opposite direction, but another big player brought in, age 22. He's got a lot of years ahead of him. He's driven, he's got the right personality for this Manchester United team. He's a world-class central midfielder and has really, really started to make the grade at Manchester United. So that is a first really good sign. He's valued at 53, so there is an element to suggest they've overpaid. 82 million there. He's played 33 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, 1 man of the match for a 6.9 average rating. That was the first signing they brought in. Let's have a look at who else came in through the front door at Manchester United. First of which is Sime Vishalko, who came in from Guangzhou Evergrande for £32 million. Now, he is a right wing-back / right midfield option that has been drafted in here by Jose Mourinho, who, by the way, is still the manager of Manchester United, despite a very disappointing season last season. Now, he's obviously going to have to turn around their fortunes this year if he is to keep that job. So we've got Vishalko, who come in for 32 mil. We've also had Renato Sanchez, who came in for 82 mil. And let's have a look at who else they've bought in. Through the door, another defensive option, and it is Stefan Savic, who has been bought in from Atletico de Madrid for 6.7 mil, potentially rising to 10.75 with add-ons. He's now valued at 17.75 million, so some would say that is a shrewd piece of business by the Portuguese manager, Jose Mourinho. And he has played 14 games in the Premier League for them this season with a 6.7 average rating, 7.6 average rating rather. He will be the kind of guy that will fill in the gaps when a player is injured or is banned or whatever, and he's done just that, and I think that's a good move by Mourinho to bring him in. He's going to provide that cover in that important defensive area, which will allow the more creative and more playful players further up the pitch to do what they need to do. So there's been a few more other signings that they've brought in. We'll bring you those, and there's also been some players going in the opposite direction, which will bring you also. Coming in through the front door also was Maxim Malashev from Shakhtar, who they paid £20 million for. He's now valued at 27.5, so again another shrewd bit of business for this tenacious defensive midfielder. Man United have played him in 12 games so far, 11 in the Premier League. He's accrued a 7.12 average rating. Has been a very, very good player, and I think he's going to, at the age of 27, he's got another couple of years where he can grow into that role, and I think he's going to become an important player for Manchester United. Had played 69 games prior at Shakhtar before making the move. We can see here he moved in for £20 million this season and has gone straight into the first team and has done well. Let's have a quick look at his stats since coming in. So he has succeeded with 83% of his passes, 78% of his tackles. His industrial workmanlike, 7.6 kilometres covered per 90 minutes. He's the kind of player that you need in that midfield to put those tackles in, get the ball out to the wider creative players, and he has done that job since moving in. Also, let's have a look now. So a few of these guys are regens. We're not going to bother going through those. So going out in the opposite direction, Sergei Dada has gone to Tottenham for 8.75 million. That will potentially rise to 13.5 million with add-ons. He's played 18 games for them since making the switch and has scored 3 goals in those 18 games. We've also got Chris Smalling going to Inter Milan, and he has played 56 games for them in total. Obviously, he had a loan spell there, of which he has scored 1 goal and has become somewhat of a first-team stalwart at Inter Milan. Things didn't really work out for him in the latter years at Manchester United after showing a lot of promise, and eventually he's made the move. And to be fair, Man United haven't really lost much in that deal. He's only valued a little bit more now, 9.25, 1.75 more than what they paid for him. Obviously, they've got money in from that loan deal as well when he was out there. So I think all in all, that's a good bit of business for both clubs. He provides that defensive stability for the Italian outfit and also a bit of a cash injection for Manchester United, which obviously is needed once in a while. Now, these are the two interesting moves. Axel Tuanzebe has gone to Wigan for £750,000. Now, that will potentially rise to £1 million, and he has played 36 games since arriving at Wigan. He's got a 7.09 average rating, and he turns out to be quite good in a lot of FM saves that I've seen, particularly when played early on from the outset. Now, he hasn't really featured for Manchester United, and it took him a while to really get going, but I expect him to improve now over the next 3 to 4 years, and I think he will become a very big player for Wigan. The other player which I thought was cheap and went in the other direction was Rashawn Williams, who's gone to Fulham for £500,000, potentially rising to 6. Now, I think he's at the age where at 21 he can improve a lot. He's a solid defensive central defender option for Fulham. He's played 10 games so far. Hasn't really met the grade yet in the Championship, but I expect him to improve and do so with experience. And I think in a year or two's time he's going to become a real pivotal defensive linchpin for Fulham. Now, let's have a look at the players that have been released from Manchester United. We will look. Michael Carrick, at the age of 37, has been released from the club and is now the under-23s manager for Middlesbrough. Now, I think that's a good sign for Middlesbrough. He's got a wealth of experience within the game and he has served his time at Manchester United. James Wilson was handed a free transfer and has signed for Aston Villa. He's played 25 games for them since being released from his contract and has scored 4 goals. Now, that isn't probably ideal. He's only started 8 of those with 17 appearances. But he's now playing for Aston Villa down in the Championship. Let's have a look. Who else have we got there? There isn't really much where Tyrrell Warren has been released and now plays for Sheffield United, but he's yet to start and make an appearance for them. Marcos Rojo was released and now plays for Al Jazeera after a loan spell at Fiorentina. Now he now plays for Al Jazeera over in Qatar. He will no longer be a Man United player, obviously, because he was released. So he has been gone. Let's have a quick look at the league table. That is pretty much all that we need to look at for there. Angel Gomez out on loan at Barnsley. Tathi Chung on loan to Real Sociedad. Torino for Timothy Fosu-Mensah. And Joel Pereira, the goalkeeper, was on loan at Port Vale. So the Premier League this time round, they finished in 5th position again, another disappointing season. But Man City have backed up their recent win and won it again. Arsenal finished 2nd, just a point behind Man City. Tottenham in 3rd, Chelsea in 4th. And I'd say that was another poor season for Manchester United. We'll have a quick look in at what happened. So they got through to the quarterfinals of the League Cup. They beat Man City in the quarterfinals. They beat Tottenham in the semi-finals, but they lost to Middlesbrough in the League Cup final. That is a big loss, that, to Middlesbrough. A massive loss indeed. And they lost to Liverpool in the FA Cup 4th round. They pulled it together in the league late on after a lot of draws there in succession. But yeah, that's pretty much it. They weren't in Europe this season. They again, a trophyless season for Manchester United. Very poor. Let's have a look at the 4th season in this experiment, and then after that we've got another season to go. So into our penultimate season we go, and just the one signing for Manchester United this time around, bringing in Roma Greek centre-back Kostas Manolas, who's played 28 games since coming into Manchester United. Now, he's a solid central defensive option that they brought in, and I think that he will do well, continue to do well for them. And he's been brought in to replace Virgil van Dijk, who's made a £16 million move to Marseille after only appearing 18 times in 3 seasons for Manchester United. Didn't really work out as they'd hoped since bringing him in. They did pay £25 million, remember, in that opening season. But he now plays in Ligue 1 over in France. He's played 34 games for Marseille and has got a 7.25 average rating. So very, very shrewd bit of business. Lost a slight touch of value. They did pay 16 million, he's valued at 13.75. But I think all said and done, he's been a very positive transfer for Marseille at least. Phil Jones has gone to West Ham. They bought him for around 2.1 million, potential to rise to 3.3. He spent 9 years at Old Trafford after moving from Blackburn, played 142 games for the Manchester club, but has now moved to West Ham. He's played 24 times in his first season at the Hammers. He's scored 0, 1 assist, 1 man of the match, for a 7.01 rating, and I'd say that's good. He's only 29. He's got a few years left to go. He's got quite a high wage demand though. 110,000 is a lot of money. Valued at 10.5, so purely on the basis of transfers, they've got a really good signing there. A solid defensive option, sometimes which they've lacked in previous seasons, and Phil Jones is now a West Ham player. Stefan Savic, who they bought in the 1921 season or the 1920 season, has gone to Real Madrid this time though. They bought him in for 6.75, potentially rising to 10.75, but Real Madrid have come in and snapped him up for, I believe, 12.5, but there's £5 million worth of add-ons, so that could rise to £17.5 million now. I think that is a good deal. He was only a bit part player for Manchester United. They've brought in Kostas Manolas. They've got various other options in there, and I think they've made the right move to get rid of Savic here. A really good move indeed, and I think he'll be a reasonable player for Real Madrid, whilst I think they probably can do better, but he's played quite regularly for them. Hasn't quite hit the 7.0 average rating that I like to see from players. And now, I think that's pretty much it, really. Leo Connor was one of the youth players, has now moved to Charlton. He's played 39 games for a 7.3 rating. He's done well since making that switch. A few players have been released, of which were Indy Boonen has been released and has been picked up by Port Vale, playing 38 games. But at the age of 22, he's not really going to improve much there. And I think that's probably about his level now. Joel Pereira has moved on to Coventry after being released from his clause, and has played 40 games for Coventry, conceding 39. And I think, again, that is probably about his level. Has done well. Nishan Burkhardt has moved to FC Vaduz since moving from Manchester United, but is yet to feature in their first team. And that completes all the transfers for this window, really. Let's have a quick look at the squad first of all. Now, again, we've got Paul Pogba leading the way here with 19 goals, 16 assists, 7 man of the matches from 49 games. Juan Mata, also brilliant again, 14 assists from 44, 8 goals, 8 man of the matches. Romelu Lukaku, 20 goals from 43. Marco Verratti, 12 assists from 42, 5 man of the matches and 6 goals. There's a lot of really good performances in here from this team. They're really starting to gel together. And you'll note from up on the side, Maxim Malishev as well, 39 games played, 2 goals, 6 assists, 2 man of the matches, 7.38 average rating. As a team, they're really performing this season. Let's have a quick look at the Premier League and how that finished. Now, they finished on level points with Manchester City. However, Man City won by goal difference and just by 1 goal over Man United. Liverpool finishing 3rd with Chelsea in 4th, Tottenham 5th and Arsenal down in 6th. A really return to form this season for Manchester United in their penultimate season. Let's have a quick look at the last day of the season, and it looks like that loss to West Brom here on the last day has cost Manchester United dear, getting beat 2-1 at home. Jesse Lingard on the score sheet. They managed to get through to the semi-finals of the Europa League. Well, they got through and won the Europa League final, actually, beating Sporting 2-0, goals courtesy of Romelu Lukaku and Renato Sanchez. They were beaten in the fourth round of the FA Cup by Everton, and they were also knocked out of the English League Cup in the 4th round by Brentford. Again, Jesse Lingard on the score sheet there. So that completes pretty much the penultimate season. Let's double check that Jose Mourinho is still the manager of Manchester United, of which indeed, yes, he is. They've got Javier Mascherano as the captain, who they bought in for a free last season. I forgot to mention it at the time, but yes, he has done quite well since coming in. Although he hasn't played a lot of games. And I think he'll probably be on his way out now after this season. So now we're going to have a look at the final season in this 5 seasons of Manchester United. And we're going to see if they can get some silverware at last. So straight into transfers we go then. And the first signing of the season was Andrea Belotti, world-class striker brought in from Napoli and has left no stone unturned since moving to Manchester United. He moved in for 41.5 million, potentially rising to 64 with add-ons. Now, he's going to provide that little bit of pace and agility and kind of the work rate that Romelu Lukaku sometimes doesn't really produce. And I think he's going to be a brilliant signing for Man United moving forward. And he was the first of a few. It was quite a busy window, this, for Man U. So we're going to crack on through them. Let's check out who's next. Next was Felipe Anderson, an attacking midfielder on either flank, kind of a world-class winger, and has been bought in from Atletico de Madrid for £34 million, now valued at 35.5. He has played for Lazio in the past and has done well since arriving at Man U. He's played 38 games in the Premier League, getting 11 assists for a 7.12 average rating, 3 man of the matches included in that. And I'd say that was very much a success for Man U. They're very much in need of these attacking wider players to help with that industrious midfield. They've got a Verratti and Malishev and Renato Sanchez, and I think this is a kind of play that will definitely help them propel them towards a league title. Also, along with Felipe Anderson, they have brought in veteran striker Edinson Cavani for 2.2 million, potentially rising to 3.3. He'd scored 126 goals in 230 appearances for Paris Saint-Germain before making the move to Manchester United. He's made 7 appearances in the Premier League since moving, scoring 3 goals with 1 assist. And at the age of 35, he's not really going to set off any fireworks, but he's the kind of guy with that experience that can get it done in the big games. And I think for the kind of price they've paid, it is a very, very decent transfer, kind of much like Ibrahimovic right at the start of this save and even before this save was for Man U. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at the last couple of signings they've made. We're going to have a look who's gone out in the opposite direction. So let's crack on and do that. Final signing Man U made in this window was Yvonne Mavogo, who is a backup keeper for Manchester United, who they signed from West Brom. He was, I think it was around 5 million, if memory serves. Yeah, £5 million. He did come over from Leipzig, played a couple of seasons at West Brom, did reasonably well, hasn't had to feature in the Premier League for United, but they needed some cover for David De Gea in the goalkeeping. I think Sergio Romero has either been released or retired. I think he's getting to that sort of age now. So let's have a quick look at the transfers out. So the transfers out, Jesse Lingard has moved to Brentford for 4.8 million. Potential of that to rise to 6.75, and he's done really well since going over there. He scored 3 goals, 4 assists in 38 games in the Premier League for Brentford, and again, he's the kind of guy that will develop, and you can build a team around Lingard. He's played really well for them, Jesse Lingard, so we shall see how he gets on at Brentford. Javier Mascherano has retired. There's a lot of loans in there as well. There was a free. Ander Herrera has been released on a free. He now plays for Valencia. Not sure what Man United were thinking behind that. He's been a fantastic servant to the club, and I'd like him to have seen his career out at Manchester United, but unfortunately that is not going to be the case. He's played 33 times for Valencia. He's got 8 assists in the league and is 7-1 free. He definitely could have continued to do a job at Manchester United, but obviously they've had other ideas, so he is now a Valencia player. Also, he's a regen. That's pretty much it really. Sam Johnson has gone to Middlesbrough for 1.2 mil, potentially rising to 1.5. He's played in the Championship. He's had a decent season, only conceding 26 goals in 27 games with 10 clean sheets in amongst them. And I think that's probably fair. I think that's kind of the level he's at. I don't think he'll ever really break into that Man United first team, given the amount of loans he's been out on. So that completes the transfers. Let's have a look at the league then and see how Manchester United have got on. And again, they finished second. Only a point behind winners Tottenham, who managed to win it there. And it's unlucky, they're 6 clear of Man City in third, and they were only a point behind Man City, who'd won it 3 years in a row. So Manchester United now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seasons without a win in the Premier League. It's got to be the longest they've gone in a long time without winning. Jose Mourinho is still the manager of Chelsea. Let's have a quick look at the squad now and see who is still there. So appearance-wise, David De Gea, the top appearance man. Pogba, imperious up front again here. 21 goals in 56 games, 16 assists, 10 man of the matches. It's just been brilliant season upon season now. Felipe Anderson with 17 assists from 54. Again, a quality performance from him. Rashford, 36 goals in 48 games, really turned it on this season and has now developed into a brilliant player for his country and also for his club. 53 goals in 148 appearances, 11 in 12 in the Champions League. He is now pretty much Man United's top man. Lukaku, 17 goals in 48. Not enough for me, that. Belotti, 20 in 12. Belotti's been brilliant since linking up with Jose Mourinho. A few other obvious others in there that have had less games, have been used more of sparing substitutes and stuff like that. I think on the whole though, this has been a pretty decent experiment for Manchester United. I think they've performed well. I think there's a lot of positives in there, certainly in terms of firepower. Let's have a look. They won the UEFA Super Cup, beating Barcelona. Goal coming from Romelu Lukaku. That was their first piece of silverware of the season. They let's go through. So they got to the final of the League Cup, which they beat Tottenham, so that's another piece of silverware. They have got through to the FA Cup semi-final, where they were beaten 2-0 by Tottenham, and they were beaten by Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final. So they've won 2 trophies. They got to the semi-final of the Champions League, they got to the semi-final of the FA Cup, and they finished off strongly, beating Newcastle and Arsenal. I don't think that's a bad season by any stretch of the imagination. I think the kind of players they've got, though, they probably should be pushing a bit more. But again, we haven't really looked at other clubs in this save, Tottenham, etc., etc. We're going to look at doing them further on in this experiment. We're going to do this 5 seasons of starting from today. I'm away for the next couple of days, but we're going to be back later in the week with another one of these. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. You've taken a look through Manchester United over the 5 seasons. Are there any players that have impressed you in this little holiday save? Let me know. Has Romelu Lukaku not really impressed, or do you think that's kind of the output that you expect from him? Let me know in the comment section down below if you are a Manchester United fan and what you'd like to see next. Do you think Jose Mourinho is the man for the job based on these results? Do you think the signings they made were the right signings, or were a few of them questionable? There's a lot of questions to be answered, really. Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching again, guys. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you again soon.